This is my first video update coming to you from Athens, Greece. Let's talk about some news. Let's get started with an interview that former Russian president and deputy secretary of the Security Council, Dmitry Medvedev, gave to the TV channel LCI. I believe this is a French TV channel, if I'm not mistaken. And Medvedev, he outlined the four scenarios for which Russia would use nuclear weapons. There's been a lot of talk about nuclear weapons the past couple of weeks, it seems, with regards to the shelling at the Zaporozhye power plant. And by the way, inspectors, IAEA inspectors, are scheduled to be at that plant on the 5th of September, from what I understand. And not only are you going to have inspectors there who are going to oversee the stability of the plant, but you're also going to have, from what I understand, forensic experts as well, who will be able to properly assess from where the shelling is coming from. This may be another reason to explain why the Zelensky regime is so motivated to cause damage to the Zaporozhye plant. Perhaps they don't want the inspectors, or they want to create conditions where it's dangerous for the inspectors to actually go there and then come to the conclusion that is not favorable to the collective West and the Zelensky regime. Anyway, this is what Medvedev said with regards to Russia using nuclear weapons. He said there are four scenarios in Russia's military doctrine that allows for the use of nuclear weapons, tactical nuclear weapons as well. He said, and I quote, "These are the four reasons for the use of nuclear weapons, for the sake of interest and for the French public. I will name them: the launch of nuclear missiles, the use of nuclear weapons, attacks on critical infrastructure that controls nuclear weapons, or other actions that threaten the existence of the Russian state." Interestingly enough, Medvedev also commented on the use of tactical atomic weapons or arms containing depleted uranium and things like this. And he actually pointed the finger at NATO and the collective West. And he said that over the past 20 to 30 years, the NATO states have used them, in reference to tactical atomic weapons, have used them quite actively, both in Yugoslavia and Iraq. There is some uncertainty around this topic with very tragic consequences. So in this sense, we must first look at what Western countries have done in certain situations. Now, I'm trying to think, did the collective West use tactical atomic weapons in Iraq? I'm not sure, but let me know in the comments down below if this is indeed the case. I do know that such weapons, these types of weapons at least, were used in Yugoslavia and against Serbia. I believe this has been confirmed and is widely accepted. So that is what Dmitry Medvedev said with regards to the scenarios in which Russia would use nuclear weapons, tactical nukes, according to Russian military doctrine. I just find it really funny that over the past, I don't know, say 4 or 5 months, we've been hearing from the collective West that Russia is going to use nukes. They're going to use tactical nukes. They're about to launch nuclear war. You know, all the mainstream media has been talking about this. They've really been playing this up. And it was actually the collective West just a couple of days ago, in the form of Liz Truss, who is slated to be the next Prime Minister of the UK, who actually came out and affirmed that she would indeed use nuclear weapons in conflict. And she confirmed this not once but twice And her second confirmation was very flippant, I guess is the best way to describe it. Just kind of like, yeah, I'll do it, no problem, without understanding the consequences or perhaps the British military doctrine with regards to the situations where nuclear weapons would be used. Anyway, that is Dmitry Medvedev and his comments with regards to this question given to him from LCI, the TV channel LCI. And sticking with Ukraine and Zaporozhye, Nikolaev, Kharkov, these regions, we have news from the Deputy Prime Minister of Ukraine that there are indeed mandatory evacuations that will take place. And this is according to Reuters. Ukraine plans to expand the number of districts on the war's front lines where civilian evacuations will be mandatory, as those areas could be occupied and face central heating problems this winter. So the Deputy Prime Minister of Ukraine, Irina Vereshchuk, said, and I quote, "I'm not talking about the entire region, but parts will need mandatory evacuation. We are also preparing for it." Now, the Deputy Prime Minister, she talked about mandatory evacuations in the Donbass in July when she saw that the Russian military was advancing, specifically in Donetsk, and they were taking territory in the region of Donetsk. And she talked about a massive evacuation of somewhere along the lines of, if I remember correctly, like 150,000 or 200,000 people living in areas which were to fall to Russian control. And now she is saying that there's going to be a mandatory evacuation planned in the regions of Zaporozhye, Nikolaev, and Kharkiv. And we know that the Russians are or have begun an advance towards Nikolaev. And we also know that there's a lot of activity in the Kharkiv region as well. And I have to say that the way the words are phrased, a mandatory evacuation, it seems more like this is a retreat and an admission from the Ukraine government that they're unable to hold the Russian advance back, because she cloaks it. She cloaks the mandatory evacuation, as she phrases it, with heating problems this winter. So it's the heating problems to me is a way to distract away from the fact that that Ukraine is indeed unable to hold the Russian advance in these regions towards Nikolaev and perhaps Kharkiv, and they are going to opt for evacuating civilians from those areas rather than have them fall under the control of the Russian Federation and the Russian military, which would then mean that these people living in areas which are now controlled by the Russian military would get a Russian passport. They would be using the ruble. They would be voting in a referendum, perhaps, and maybe you would also have military-aged men who would start training to join the ranks of the military forces of the Russian Federation, or the militias that may be that the Russians may be setting up in these regions. So it looks like that that the Ukraine regime is saying, you know what, things are not going well in Nikolaev, in Zaporozhye, and in Kharkiv, and instead of having people who live in this region fall under Russian control and everything that means, it's just better to force them to leave their homes. And they cloak it with an evacuation plus potential heating difficulties this winter in those areas. There's not, we know that there are not going to be heating difficulties in these areas. It's more about not letting these people come under Russian control. But by the way, the Zaporozhye power plant, it was disconnected. The electricity was disconnected from the Zaporozhye plant, and from what we understand, it has been reconnected and everything is back online now, which in my opinion confirms that the Russian military, the Kremlin, they were not interested in using electricity, and they are not interested in cutting off electricity and using it as a weapon towards the people of Zaporozhye, the residents of Zaporozhye who are living in Ukraine. It was never their goal to cut people off from electricity, because that runs counter to how the Russians have been conducting this conflict, or this special military operation for the past 6 months, which is to keep the electricity on, to keep the internet on, the water on, sewage. The Russians have not destroyed any of this critical infrastructure, which under normal, I guess, conditions of war, under a normal invasion, definitely invasion that would have been conducted by NATO, for example, this would be the first things that the invading army would take out. They would hit the communication infrastructure, the sewage, the water, the internet, the electricity. They would go after all of this stuff. That would be on day one that they would go after this stuff. But the Russians have, for 6 months, avoided going after any of these things. So why would they go after the electricity grid in order to cut the people of Ukraine off from electricity? It doesn't make any sense. Why would they do that now? So the fact that the grid is now back and running and is servicing Ukraine residents in that area confirms the fact that the reason for the grid to go offline was because of Ukraine shelling, and the Russians had no intention to keep it offline. As a matter of fact, they want to make sure that people in the area continue to have access to electricity. So let's talk now about weapons. Since we're talking about Ukraine shelling of the Zaporozhye power plant, let's talk about an article that came out of Bloomberg. And this article is saying that the Pentagon is concerned about weapons deliveries to Ukraine. The title of this article is "Torrent of Cash for Ukraine Arms Puts Pentagon Watchdog on Alert." So an inspector general has been appointed, and that inspector general is going to be looking out for fraud and a waste in weapon replenishment, as well as weapons heading into the black market. And well, let me read you a quote first. Let me read you a quote from the acting Pentagon Inspector General Sean O'Donnell. Quote, "As soon as the weapons get to Ukraine, I don't think they, the Pentagon, the Bidenopolis White House, Greece's favorite son, I don't think they have confidence about where they will end up." We had the, the CBS News or the ABC News documentary report, which highlighted that 70% of weapons deliveries to Ukraine never make it to the front line. They get lost because Russians destroy those weapons, or they head into the black market. ABC News, CBS News, I always forget who did the report. They actually walked back that documentary. That was an interesting development, and they said no, that documentary was done in April, and you know what, things have changed now, but under pressure, probably from the Pentagon, because this was very embarrassing for the Pentagon, and I'm positive that people in the United States who read that story are probably saying, why are we giving all these weapons to Ukraine and all this money to Ukraine when 70% of it is disappearing? So they had to kind of walk those statements back. But the fact that the Pentagon is now appointing someone to take a look at this weapons waste is to me confirmation that you do have a very significant percentage of weapons which are never making it to the front line, and which are being destroyed by Russia, but more importantly, for the Pentagon, I believe, are making their way to the black market. And I'll just leave you with this final thought with regards to this article from Bloomberg. According to this article, the way that corruption is working with regards to the weapons that are making their way to the front line is that the accounting of these weapons in Ukraine is being carried out with the help of paper receipts written by hand. Now, was it the New York Times or the Washington Post? They did a story 3-4 months ago about how there really is no tracking number or tracking ID system in place with regards to all of these weapons, these billions and billions of dollars of U.S. weapons that make their way to Ukraine. There's no real system in place, a tracking number, tracking ID, anything like that. And now Bloomberg is saying that the accounting of these weapons is just pretty much, here's a couple of javelins and javelinas, number 1133664. This one is heading to the front lines. I mean, stuff like that. And this is how corruption is done in Ukraine, and this is why it's confirmation that a lot of these weapons are heading into the black market, and there's paper accounting in place for a reason. These weapons are meant to enter the black market, and they're meant to make a lot of people very, very wealthy. If they wanted to not make a lot of people in the process of these weapons deliveries not wealthy, well, then they would have put a proper tracking system in place from day one. God knows the U.S. has the Pentagon, they have the technology to do such things. But an accounting system which relies on a pencil and paper, well, that's being done on purpose in order to make sure that weapons disappear, and in order to make sure that weapons enter the black market, and to make sure that that certain individuals and organizations and people in the chain of command and in the entire process of weapons deliveries, to make sure they get their cut and they make money from all of this. So paper and pencil. Interesting revelation from this Bloomberg article. Let's now shift gears. Let's shift gears and discuss the EU energy crisis. We've got some more news about what's going on in the European Union with regards to the energy crisis. I'm going to talk about 3 countries: France, Bulgaria, and Norway. Let's begin with France and French President Macron, who spent August sunning it up on various yachts and relaxing for his August summer break, and now he is back on the job in Paris, and he is trying to find solutions for the energy crisis, and not only for France but for the European Union. And so Macron has decided to go to Algeria and to try and find alternative energy sources, because Algeria has been helping various EU countries diversify their energy supply by getting gas to countries like Italy and Spain, and I imagine Portugal as well. So Macron said, why not give it a shot, go to one of our former colonies and see if I can get them to help the rest of Europe out. So Macron is visiting Algeria. He is going to try to find a solution to rising electricity prices and energy costs. Not for now, by the way. This is a trip that is designed in order to find a solution to rising electricity prices and energy prices for the next year. So this is not a solution for the present day. This is a solution for the year ahead, because it looks like that French electricity prices for the year ahead have hit record levels, with year ahead contract contracts surging as much as 13% to 1,022 euros per megawatt hour on the European Energy Exchange. 1,022 euros per megawatt hour. And so Macron is in Algeria, and he is going to beg the authorities in Algeria to lend France a hand. Let's now talk about Bulgaria. Now, Bulgaria is an interesting case because Bulgaria was one of the countries that said no to Gazprom's gas for rubles payment structure 3, 4, 5 months ago when Gazprom said gas for rubles. Bulgaria was one of those countries that stood tall and stood firm and said, no, we will not be blackmailed by Putin. We will not be blackmailed by Russia with regards to energy. And so we're not going to participate in gas for rubles. We're going to work out a scheme where we get our gas from Greece and from other EU countries, mainly from Greece. And we'll figure it out. We'll divert some of that gas flow from Greece to Bulgaria, and we'll solve our energy problems that way. Well, it looks like Energy Minister Rosen Christof has told Nova TV on Friday that the Bulgarian government is now considering holding talks with Gazprom on resuming Russian natural gas imports. The energy minister said, quote, "There are still no active talks with Gazprom, but we have given an indication that we want to start negotiations, or rather to continue them, to clarify some controversial terms of the contract. We simply sent information that we were ready to negotiate and asked them, Gazprom, to resume contract. We are only talking about the old contract. We will not re-sign or negotiate a new contract." So Bulgaria is, they're trying to not look weak here, and they're not trying to admit defeat. And they're saying, no, we will not sign a new contract. We're not talking about signing up for gas for rubles. What we really want from Russia is to just look at the old contract in place and see if we can just kind of extend that out for as much time as we need it, so we can get back on our feet. So we could until we find a solution to our gas needs. Extend it out for a year or 2 or 3. And then when we find a way to not depend on Russian gas, then we're going to kick Gazprom to the curb. And by the way, as we are negotiating with Gazprom, as we ask Gazprom to please extend the old contracts out, we're going to continue to deliver weapons to Ukraine in order to continue to extend the conflict out as well. So that's the attitude of these EU countries, just so we get a glimpse as to how they see things. We're going to continue to send weapons to Ukraine. We're going to continue to try and drag this conflict out. We're going to continue to place sanctions on Russia, and we're not going to abide by the new gas for ruble scheme. But we want Gazprom to just look at our old contracts and just do us a solid and, just extend it for a couple of years more. The way things were before, right? That is how Bulgaria sees things. And it was really funny that 4 months ago, when Bulgaria was talking about how they're going to face down Putin's energy blackmail and not sign up for gas for rubles, that the prime minister of Bulgaria, at the time, Petkov, he said that Bulgaria, that he had talked to Kamala Harris, the vice president of the United States, and that Kamala Harris and him agreed to a deal where they would bring U.S. LNG to Bulgaria, and that would alleviate much of the pressure from Russian gas, the pressure to use Russian gas. So his solution 4 or 5 months ago was a contract negotiated with Kamala Harris, where U.S. LNG would be arriving to Bulgaria, and that LNG would replace Russian pipelined gas. How's that contract working out for you, Bulgarian Prime Minister? Is Petkov still the Prime Minister or not? I believe he's not. I believe the government has is undergoing some sort of shift, but I need to look into that a bit. But how is that agreement with Kamala Harris? Doesn't look like it went over too well. And let's talk about some more bad news with regards to gas and energy for the European Union. And this bad news is being delivered by Norway. And this is a very interesting story from Reuters. They are reporting that the Norwegian petroleum minister, Terje Asland, said that Norway will not demand that their energy companies offer long-term fixed price gas contracts as a way to alleviate soaring costs for Norway's European customers. So a member in the Norwegian parliament suggested that perhaps Norway should show solidarity with Europe by ordering Norwegian energy firms to offer fixed price gas deliveries below current market prices to EU countries and to EU customers. And it looks like the petroleum minister of Norway said, And even better than him saying no, he's actually saying that the EU, the European Union, is at fault for this energy predicament that they've gotten themselves into. The minister argued that supplies were already free to enter into long-term contracts if commercial terms were agreed with customers. But Asland wrote in a letter to the parliament late on Thursday saying, and I quote, "I do not plan for a policy whereby petroleum firms on the Norwegian continental shelf are instructed to enter into fixed price contracts for gas deliveries," pointing out that 20 years ago, Brussels had itself abandoned the price of long-term contracts in favor of the spot market. And now the Norwegian system keeps the option for companies to enter into such contracts based solely on economic interests. Norway, which has overtaken Russia as Europe's biggest gas supplier after Moscow cut flows, will curtail exports significantly next month due to heavy maintenance activity. That's a double whammy. So not only is the petroleum minister of Norway saying, looky you, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, we told you, let's sign some long-term contracts. Let's get some long-term contracts in place. Cheap, reliable, dependable contracts, and you'll be able to secure your energy security, at least from the side of Norway. But the EU said, no, we'll just play the spot market. We'll take a chance on the spot market, and we don't want any long-term fixed price gas contracts. And the petroleum minister is saying, I told you so. Now that you guys want long-term contracts, or now that you want us to sell us the gas at below market prices, we can't do it. We'll leave that to the discretion of our energy companies. It's their call, but you're free to sign spot market contracts with them. That's basically what he's saying, which is what Qatar told Habek when Habek went to Qatar and he tried to get some sort of LNG deal in place at favorable prices. Qatar said, look, Habek, the energy minister of Germany, the Green Party energy minister, Qatar said, look, spot market, you're free to buy LNG right there. But as far as any long-term contracts, we're all booked up. And this is pretty much what the Norwegian petroleum minister is telling the European Union. But the double whammy to all of this is that he is also saying that that next month things are going to significantly, the gas flow is going to significantly decrease because of maintenance. I hope that the Norwegians aren't planning to use Siemens to maintain those turbines and send them over to Canada. I hope that's not the plan. Anyway, that's like the double whammy, which is, Gazprom is maintaining these pipelines. Norway now is going to go into maintenance next month, which means less gas flow to the European Union. Talk about a double hit right there. So let's now talk about, since we're talking about the EU and how they're messing things up, let's discuss Serbia, because we have to talk about the increased tension in and around Kosovo. And from what I understand, a second meeting will be taking place between the Serbian president Vučić and the authorities of Kosovo and Metohija in about maybe 5 days. This is going to be a second meeting. The first meeting, which took place on the 18th of August, did not go well. It did not reach an agreement with regards to documentation and license plates in Serbia and Metohija, and they're going to give it another go. This is all under the umbrella of the European Union. They're the ones that are organizing these negotiations. But in the meantime, we are seeing tensions really rise in this region. And I've actually seen video of Serbian military assets moving towards the Kosovo region. I haven't been able to really confirm that. I've seen multiple videos of what is allegedly Serbian military assets moving towards Kosovo. But the U.S. envoy for the Balkans, Mr. Gabriel Escobar, was in Belgrade to meet with President Alexander Vučić and EU negotiator Miroslav Lajčák. And Escobar said that the U.S. is not a participant in the negotiations taking place, but the U.S. supports the dialogue between Serbia and Kosovo mediated by the EU. Now, if you believe that Escobar and the United States, that they're not directly involved, or I don't want to say directly involved, that they don't exert an overwhelming amount of influence over Kosovo, over the authorities in Kosovo, Metohija, and the EU, well, then I've got a big bridge to sell you. But Escobar spoke with the CNN affiliate N1 TV from the U.S. Embassy in Belgrade, and he said that the sooner Serbia recognizes Kosovo's independence, the faster they can both reunite with the European Union. So listen to how Escobar and the United States rationalizes this. Quote, "I think we have to move away from the narrative that Kosovo is Serbia and move towards the narrative that Kosovo and Serbia are Europe. You have a common future, and that future is moving rapidly away from the problems of the 1990s and quickly to the opportunities of the 21st century. In this future, the remnants of Yugoslavia will become the driver of growth for Europe, for the entire continent, a center for renewable energy production, information technology, shipping, and transportation. So the reality is that eventually you're all going to be linked anyway, starting through some regional economic arrangements, such as the Open Balkans Initiative, and eventually through the European Union. The quicker we can resolve some of these issues, the quicker we can get to this future of opportunity." Just so we understand what the U.S. envoy is saying, he is saying that Serbia can join what he calls the prosperous European Union. And once it joins the prosperous European Union and recognizes Kosovo independence, then it is through the grace of the European Union that Serbia can be united with Kosovo, all within the framework of the EU. So Serbia gives up Kosovo and Metohija to the European Union, it gives up its own sovereignty to the European Union by joining the EU, and then it can be allowed to consider itself somehow reunited with Kosovo, all in the family of member states of the European Union, the prosperous EU. It looks like Mr. Escobar has not been reading the press of late with regards to the prosperous EU. And that is how Serbia can resolve these problems, by giving up its own sovereignty to the EU, by recognizing the independence of Kosovo and Metohija, and by becoming part of the European Union, which would then mean EU austerity, EU debt slavery, EU law, EU human rights. You know, those Western human rights which have Julian Assange rotting away in a prison in the United Kingdom, and those very same Western values and human rights that have banned Novak Djokovic from playing in the US Open, and actually banned Novak Djokovic from playing in the Australian Open. But it's those very same Western values that Serbia now, according to Escobar, has an opportunity to take part in, that have banned Novak Djokovic from playing in the US Open. So yeah, Serbia has the opportunity, if it wants it, to join the Western Atlanticist structure, if it wants to. And it's just there waiting for them to join this prosperous structure that is paying €1,000 a megawatt hour for electricity, and is not going to have any hot water, and no lights on at nighttime, and what else? And all of these things. This is the prosperous EU that Serbia has the opportunity to join. It just has to give up all of its territory, all of its history, all of its culture, everything. Just give it all up, all of its sovereignty, everything that makes Serbia Serbia. Relinquish all of that, and then everything's hunky-dory. Everything's A-okay, right? I mean, what is the upside to joining the European Union at this moment in time? What exactly is the upside? Loans that are going to put you in debt? No thank you. Schengen travel? How's that working out? Not too good. Not too good. Serbians can travel to Russia. Once they join the EU, they won't be able to travel to Russia. So I don't think the Schengen is that big of a prize there. I don't think it's something that's worth it in order to give up your sovereignty in order to get Schengen travel. And Schengen travel used to be, I remember when it used to be really easy, to just get on a plane and travel to another EU country. Now every time you travel, you have to go through electronic identification and all these, and camera surveillance and stuff like that, and all of Russia and Belarus, Belarus, and much of the east, the east of the world is pretty much cut off to you, because EU planes can't travel over Russian sovereign territory anyway. So that's not so much of a plus there. What else? When I was in Belgrade, I could actually access Russian media. I could actually access RT.com. If you join the EU, you're not going to be accessing any of the global internet. It's going to be cut off. So you lose much of the internet. You lose freedom of communication. You lose freedom of speech, because we all see what's happening to various dissident voices who decide to speak freely in Europe. Take, for example, people like, what's her name? Lind, the German journalist from Donbass, Anna Lind, I believe is her name. Take a look at what happened to her and what Germany did to her, or what the UK did to Graham Phillips. And, the list goes on and on and on. So there's really not much upside for Serbia with regards to taking Escobar up on his offer and just giving up everything that makes Serbia Serbia in order to join the European Union, and to resolve this Kosovo problem via the framework of everyone being an EU member state. I don't think Serbia is going to take Escobar up on his poison pill. Anyway, I will end the video there. theduran.locals.com, and look for us on ODYSEE, BitChute, Rumble, and Telegram. Check out Alexander's channel. Check out the Duran's channel. Take care.